So welcome one and all again to the second day of 24th National Conference of NHRDN. Now when we have gathered here to understand the mega trends, which is the theme for the day, the importance of leadership, organizational culture and innovation cannot be emphasized enough. It is our pleasure that the session we are heading into revolves around this element. I would therefore like to invite Mr. Harsh Mariwala, the chairman, Marico, and Ms. Ganga Priya on stage. Ms. Ganga Priya, who will be the moderator for the session, is the India site head and managing director at Ford's Motor Business, which is an 8,000 strong organization headquartered in Chennai. Prior to joining Ford, she worked at Mercer Consulting. She is also an alumni of this HRM. Now, without wasting much time, I request Ganga Priya ma'am to please take over. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Pranav, for that introduction. And we have a very exciting session that is planned for you. Good morning to everyone and to the second day of this national conference. It's my privilege and pleasure to anchor this conversation with Mr. Harsh Mariwala for today's session titled Leadership, Organizational Culture and Innovation, the Marico Experience. Frankly, Mr. Mariwala needs no introduction and is very well known in business and professional circles. He currently leads Marico Limited as its chairman. He is also chairman and managing director of Kaya Limited. His passion for innovation enthused him to establish the Marico Innovation Foundation in 2003, which works on nurturing innovations in India. In 2012, he started Ascent Foundation, a peer learning platform for entrepreneurs. Sharp Ventures is the family office of the Harsh Mariwala family. He also founded the Mariwala Health Initiative in 2015 with the philanthropic aim of giving back to society. Recently, Mr. Mariwala was bestowed the EY Entrepreneur of the Year Award for 2020 for India, which is the world's most prestigious business award for entrepreneurs. Before I get into the conversation, I thought it would be very important to set the context for it. In the midst of the COVID pandemic, Mr. Mariwala put pen to paper to document the journey of Marico. What resulted was this book, Harsh Realities, which you can see is a play on his name too. And this was really the story of the journey of Marico. In the book, he speaks about how the family's spices and edible oils trading business was transformed into a 1,000 crore consumer goods giant, Marico, best known for its Saffola cooking oil and Parachute hair oil, which now sells in over 25 countries. Through a journey that spanned 5 decades, Mr. Mariwala helmed the organization that made a choice to play to its strengths and not depending on favors and handouts from governments to be successful. A traditional commodity, the humble coconut oil, became a mainstay for the company, raking in revenues without compromising on product quality and through clever advertising and branding. He believed in playing to win and made bets on products and categories despite being advised to the contrary. Over time, he made a foray into the very competitive services market, using it as a platform to launch his products, turning conventional wisdom on its head. Whether it was setting up a manufacturing facility in Kerala or launching his organization in the volatile Bangladesh market, he silenced many detractors and naysayers by doing the right thing in those situations, becoming very successful in these initiatives and ventures. Undoing the family holding in the business and carving out separate businesses that address the interests of different family members was really a revolutionary idea, much ahead of its time, and it was brought alive under his leadership. His decision to appoint a non-family member as a successor was a rare act in succession planning, especially in the context of Indian family-owned businesses. Through all of this, he built an organization that had a strong organizational culture and based on innovation. And it was a company that was and continues to be envied for its culture, acting as a magnet for top talent, often featuring amongst the best companies to work in. As I read this book, a few things emerged for me, and I thought it would be appropriate to share it at this forum. In Mr. Mariwala, I saw an entrepreneur who had a keen sense of what was important to the customer and a strong sense of what generates value for the business. I didn't see him just taking on risks. I also found Mr. Mariwala was not afraid of taking on and solving very difficult and knotty problems, being extremely fair in the process to all stakeholders through an approach that he describes as win-win. He came across as an owner willing to give space to his colleagues, but walking along with them too, empowering them to make an impact that they were capable of and they were expected to. And this was all accomplished with a strong set of values and the will to make a difference, constantly learning, unlearning, and relearning, renewing himself for every new adventure. So, if you have not read the book yet, I would strongly recommend that you do so. It's I hope you can see the book. It's a beautiful book. It brings alive many of the values of Mr. Mariwala speaks about. It's a collector's item, if I may say, for the kind of material that there is in, for the design of the book, and for the simple way in which the story of Marico has been narrated. So please do find time to do that because it's a study in how you can make success out of a business. I know I've taken a long time, but I thought it was very important to set this context. So welcome, Mr. Mariwala, to this conversation, and I'm looking forward to it and eager to hear the Marico story straight from you.
Thank you, Gangapriya, and thank you, and good morning, and welcome to all of you. Thank you, Gangapriya, for talking about my book, which is done well, and I can assure all the viewers that you will have a take-home value in the book from an HR angle as well as from a business angle. So far, the feedback I've got about the book also has been extremely positive, whether it's an entrepreneur who's reading the book or a professional or a student. So all in all, it's gone up well. And my whole objective in writing the book was to impart my experience, my learning to others. So from that point of view, I can bet that you will have some take-home value. And now I have started taking bets with anybody, as if you don't, then I'm willing to give you a refund for the cost of the book. Having said that, we can begin now.
Yeah. Wonderful. I think, having read the book myself, I would say that it makes for easy read. Reading is not something that people do regularly these days, but I think it's an engaging and easy read and lot of takeaways, not just a few, but I think lot of takeaways. So please do find the time to read it. This is a request to all the participants. So my first question to you, Mr. Mariwala, is that it's been a fantastic study of the evolution of an organization and its transformation on many, many different fronts. What has been the most exciting aspects of this transformation for you?
So I think before I go into the exciting, I think everything is exciting. To me, running a business, the challenge of managing a business, going through its ups and downs, experimenting, innovating, hiring talent, working with the board, to me, business is a part and parcel of my life, and I cannot differentiate between so-called work-life balance issues, because to me, everything is together as long as I enjoy doing it. And I think that's my first insight in terms of, these days, a lot of youngsters talk about work-life balance. And my answer to that has been, if you enjoy your work, everything is in the right balance. So I think the key thing is to enjoy your work, whatever you're doing. And that's what I've done in my own journey. Having said that, I would say that the transformation has occurred on various fronts as far as I am concerned, as far as Marico is concerned. The first transformation occurred when I converted the business from unbranded to branded. And then it went into from FMCG to other services. Initially, the products which we launched were more branded commodities, but then we went to more and more value-added businesses. In the time we started, the margins were very low. So the transformation happened when we went from low margin to high margin, and from a branded commodity player to an FMCG player. As the business expanded and we started seeing opportunity to grow outside India,
Ms. Mariwala, I think we may have lost your connection.
is it? Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
now you're back.
Sorry.
Yes. You may just want to start on where you expanded the business beyond.
Went India to international, and
Yes.
the learnings from international markets, even from people perspective, is very very different. Each country has a different culture, and over a period of time, the challenge is to ensure that wherever you have a presence, high presence, whether it's a factory or an office, you try and recruit local talent rather than sending talent from India. Of course, one or two people can go from India, but over a period of time, the challenge is to how do you recruit good talent locally, train them, um, and if necessary, expose them in India and send them back. But it's very important to send the right message in those international markets that local talent is the way forward rather than talent from India in other countries, because the culture and the way you operate in some of the markets is very very different than Indian culture. So that was another set of transformation, and then the next transformation was from family to professional, and now from actively promoter managed company to a strategic investor company. Once I stepped down, so multiple transitions, and the last one I forgot to mention was from private to public. So each of these transitions have given me a new learning, given new challenge, given new excitement. And I think the key thing is when the business demands that transformation, you have to proactively do it. And I've always believed that, you have to do it before time and don't wait for too long. If you are so we whatever, be early mover, and once you get a little confidence, move ahead with it. And that's what I've tried to do, that you be proactive in whatever you do. You beat that.
I think we may have lost you again, Mr. Mariwala. I think there's some lag. Yes, I think you should be on now, Mr. Mariwala.
What's the reason?
Yeah, you should be fine now.
Okay, sorry.
No.
So I'm saying that I've always loved challenges. I've loved taking experiments. I faltered somewhere. I failed, but it's okay to fail. Out of every failure, there has been some learning which has had a positive impact on me and the journey of the organization in future. So my advice to all youngsters, HR profit, take some risk, calculated risk. I'm not saying be rash, be deliberative, but at some stage you have to just jump into the situation and start looking at experimenting and removing the fear of failure. Provided you are working in an organization which does not punish failures. I think that was my big challenge. That you have to give an assurance to people that okay, if you fail, it's okay. If somebody fails and I punish that person by not giving the right increment or not promoting in spite of worthy of promotion, then I'm sending a very strong message that failure is not tolerated in my organization. It's a very very, I think to some extent Indian society is very hierarchical. They don't want to fail, and driven by maybe the parents and our own history. So it's very important to deviate from that and start taking risk and experiment, and don't be afraid to fail.
So, Mr. Mariwala, spoken like a true entrepreneur, take risks, uh, all right to fail, so take people along, sort of use the understanding of local culture to build a business. So many things that you spoke about. And I really love the point that you made at the very start that, if you love your work, there's really no separation of work and life. And there is a term that is used these days, which is called work life integration. How
Yes.
do you sort of combine the two and integrate them in such a way that, there is nothing that separates the two? So wonderful talking about listening to you talk about all the challenges and what really made a difference. And I think one point that really stood out for me is, being proactive and doing things ahead of time, taking
Yes.
those short steps, gaining confidence, and then going full-fledged on the change. So that was something that again stood out for me. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to sort of have professionals to take risk, because I think many times management studies do teach us how not to take risks or cover ourselves for risks. And
Okay.
therefore, I think it makes us a little risk averse. So nice to hear that, and good advice. So if you had an opportunity to do all this once again, Mr. Mariwala, what are the aspects that you would do differently?
Huh. This question has come to me many times in the past also, and it makes me reflect, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? I'm okay with all the failures, so I don't repent in terms of taking some risk and failing, because I've had some learning out of that. But in some cases, the price you paid is little much higher than what you would have not paid if you had not made those errors. I think it's mainly to do with people issues, if you ask me.
Okay.
I had not going into great details about hiring some new people. And I think somewhere, because of certain urgency, you make some decisions because you need there is a need for talent in terms of time pressure. And that time one has repented that, oh, why did I do that? So my advice is that when in doubt, out, So if you have a certain pressure to recruit somebody, but you are certain doubts, then it's better to be out rather than take that person. Second is do proper homework, in terms of reference checking, because interview has its limitations. So you need to go much, much deeper, make it very objective, the selection process. So some worries are about selecting talent, because I have a strong belief and my whole business has been built on talent. I have not invested anything extra in terms of capital investment, and created this only on base of talent. And in an FMCG business, creating brands, developing distribution, creating innovations, is everything done by people only. And the second thing is, maybe, whenever there have been some weaker performers, basically I wanted to be fair, and I've given them a little longer rope compared to what I should have given, in terms of trying to help them improve. And at some stage, when they didn't improve, had to ask them to leave, but in a very humane manner. So maybe that decision was, I had to be fair, and to that extent, fairness got precedence over merits. And because of that, I delayed some decisions which I should have taken earlier, as far as weak or non-performance was concerned.
So that's really music to the ears of all HR professionals who are in this session, to know that you built the entire FMCG organization on the basis of talent, the importance that you gave to talent, finding the right people, taking time about it, ensuring you manage performance quite proactively. So I think this is all
Just to
lessons.
add one more thing, Gangapriya, I've been on board of many companies, external, where non-Marico boards, independent board member. And one thing I realized, when I'm talking to HR professionals, is that what is the role of HR? And most organizations, they pass the monkey to HR when it comes to taking decisions which are not pleasant decisions. And I think I always said that, please define the role of HR. HR is to help others perform better, and not take dirty things like, asking somebody to go. That is not the HR role. The role is on the line. So it's very important that, as HR fraternity, all of you put your foot down, that this is not something which I should be doing. You're not there to do dirty work for line. You have to, both accolades as well as brickbats have to be given by by the line, and your role, of course, is to help line if that person is not confident, or how to guide that person. But even union negotiation, everybody expects the HR to do it. That's not the HR role. The line should be doing that. Of course, HR has to be present, guide them, but the primary responsibility is the line. And I'm saying this because I have seen it in many companies. And my first thing is, when I please define the role of HR and ensure that the line understands what's the role of HR. It's very easy to pass on some role which the line should be doing to HR because it's unpleasant.
No, and I think really, I'm sure I can see that there was a lot of positive response from the audience when you mentioned that, HR is asked to do the dirty job of managing poor performance, when in reality, HR is supposed to enhance performance in people that the company employs. So again, I think a great endorsement for what the HR function needs to do and how it can add value to business, and all coming from a person who has actually used HR in his transformation journey. So the next question that I wanted to ask you is a little personal. You come across and have been described as a learner and innovator. How do you manage to keep your curiosity alive, absorb new ideas and concepts, innovate and put them to practice? I mean, how does that happen? What is the process?
So I suppose it has to do with the fact that I am just a commerce graduate. I have not studied, and like most of you, you must have done MBAs and whatnot. But I'm just a graduate in commerce, and I was put into a family business without any further education, nor was there anybody to guide me or mentor me. So I have always had that desire to learn, because I was not aware of what HR meant or what marketing meant or what distribution meant. So I had to go down to wherever I could learn from. And those learnings have been really, it has made my journey. So whether it's my own employees or even at the lowest level, a workman or a distributor, sales rep, I always ask them, okay, what do we do next? How do we improve? And those learnings have just reinforced in me that, I think there is not a single person who should have that ego and lack of learning appetite. You have to go on learning from others. And I've learned from not only people, but outsiders, thought leaders, interacting with the best of professionals, reading books, attending training programs. So I think if you have to improve, you have to go on learning. And that learning is lifelong. There is nothing that I have to stop learning because I've reached a certain level. Because the environment is changing so fast. And then, if you stop learning, then you will be behind. So it's very important to read, to interact with others, be curious, and go on learning. And my thing has come from my own past, shall I say, past successes from others in learning and hearing from others.
What you said reminded me of a quote saying that my education came in the way of my learning, and don't let that happen. So I think a true example of how learning. But I also heard you say that one needs to be humble to learn, not just from the regular and conventional places, but from everybody, from every opportunity.
I'll just give you an example since you're on this topic. Now, I've seen many senior people. If somebody junior goes to them, first of all, they have to be willing to hear them. Okay, if they come with a suggestion, why don't, so willingness to hear and respond to that critique, not criticism, but critique, that why don't you do this way, somebody tells you, and first is to say thank you for telling me this. The moment you say thank you, that mindset changes at the other end. You may agree, you may not agree with the views. You can say that thank you very much. It's okay. For whatever reason, I'm not agreeing, but thank you for taking the courage and talking to me. And future, don't hesitate to come to me. That's very different than you coming to me and saying that, why don't you do this? And if I just reject you, and I said, I don't know, I just treat you in a negative way, then you'll never come to me. So you have to create the right kind of, you have to send the right message that critique is very welcome, that you're willing to learn, you're willing to hear, and give a message that even if you give some negative feedback, which I don't agree to, I want you to come back to me. So thank that person. Thank you for taking that initiative. And please, I'm not agreeing with this, but in future, anything else is that, come to me. I think it's very important to send that message to create the learning culture within the organization.
I think that's again a very wonderful learning for all of us. There is humility that is a prerequisite to learning, that, you can learn from anywhere, any place, anyone. That's one. Second is that, um, every opportunity could be a learning opportunity,
True.
and allowing that space, allowing that place for people to come and share their ideas. And I think, in the process, you become quite a role model for learning, because if you do this with people who come to you with ideas, I'm sure they pick a lesson from you and do it themselves. And particularly with leaders, I think it becomes an organization culture aspect that grows within the organization. The next question that I wanted to ask you, and it was very fascinating when I bought the book, and the book has a transparent cover. It sort of reflects one of the core values that has sort of uh, been the guiding force as you transformed Marico as an organization. So I just wanted to know, what does transparency mean for you? How does it manifest in the kind of things that you do to take the organization forward? How would you sort of define transparency, and how has it worked for you?
So, so when I started, doing business and, started recruiting talent, and basically, whenever I recruit talent, I would mostly ask them, what is that? How can we improve? What from our past experience, we can learn from. Um, so that learning part, which I talked earlier, was very much at the back of my mind. But at the same time, I went on hearing from those people I used to interact that in many organizations, there was a lot of backbiting, gossiping, politicking. And I always wanted to ensure that that didn't happen to Marico. That can only happen when you build that high degree of openness and transparency within the organization. So if everybody is open to learning, open to your critique, then I will. But if you are not, people are not willing to hear negative things, then you will talk behind their backs. And you talk to 20 other people about this chap, why he is not good, but you'll not go and talk to that person. So it's very important to have that transparency within the organization to ensure that you create the right culture. And I think it's very important to train people how to accept critique, how to react to critique. And also, we did a lot of other things to create that open culture in Marico. And I'm talking of early 90s. So we used to have what we call relationship reviews. So in a business environment where there is a lot of work pressure, you don't get time to reflect on how your relationships are. So what we would do is we would go out for 1 or 2 days, or one night over 2 days. Me and my team, for example, we would go and have an external facilitator and talk about how our relationship is and what I like about you, what I don't like about you. And being in with an external facilitator, it just everything comes out. And people have also told me what they don't like about me. People have liked, and everybody. So it's not for the boss. It is at a peer level also. You are ensuring that there is high degree of openness. And we go on saying that if you have anything against, or if you have any other views about somebody else, please go and talk to that person directly, and not behind that person's back, because you don't want a gossip culture. You don't want a culture which is, then it leads to gossiping and, backbiting, and then people start politicking. So I think the starting point was that if the organization is transparent and if they can give feedback directly, then a lot of issues of this negative environment, negative energy within the organization will just not be there.
Oh, I think that's a very powerful way of getting transparency manifested in the organization. You're sort of really putting all issues that people have with each other on the table, so that you're giving them an opportunity to deal with it. You using that as an opportunity for growth, rather than sort of getting discouraged by it. Seeing this as an opportunity to use feedback for one's own good, and to sort of remove friction that could possibly exist between people within the organization, and all done in an open environment with the help of a facilitator.
Just to add one more thing, sorry for interjecting. This transparency thing is why I just talked about the transparency and openness as far as your own employees, or we call them members in our organization, not employees, because they are a part of the organization. They are not. So we call them members. So with members, apart from that, I think I have realized that over a period of time, all the stakeholders, you have to be transparent. So whether it is your shareholders or whether it is your associates or whoever it is, and that has come out loud and clear in the pandemic, where authentic leaders who have actually given a true and fair picture of what's happening within the organization have done much better, and the whole issue of empathy, authenticity has really risen, and especially during pandemic times. But we have seen that if you're undergoing some issue with the business itself, it's better to be transparent, proactive to your shareholders, and tell them that I'm going through some transition short term. That will build a very high degree of trust within the organization and with that stakeholder. So I think transparency is relevant not only with your own members, but across all your stakeholders, including your customers. If something goes wrong with the product, it's better to upfront say it, yes, this is it, and I will fix it. And that will send a stronger message than just hiding and not conveying the right true and fair picture of what's happening with that particular stakeholder.
No, I think it's again fabulous point around using openness, using authenticity, using giving a correct picture of what is happening, so that you build a relationship based on trust.
Yeah.
Which I think is very important. In fact, Dr. T.V. Rao, who is in our audience, reminds me that, over 3 decades ago, you went through a workshop on leadership styles and organizational effectiveness at
Yes.
IIM Ahmedabad.
Correct, with Pradeep Khanwal, and I know Dr. Rao. Yes, it was
So
a
he wants to.
very powerful session at that time. I still remember. I think if I remember, Arnie Sachdev was there. Mr. Chuk from ITC was there. It was a fantastic experience for me. I was much younger then, but I learned a lot at that time.
Okay. So he wanted to know if it made a difference to you and made an impact.
Absolutely, I've attended many programs, but this was really a program I still very very. I mean, I still remember the program and the learnings from that.
Wonderful, wonderful. You spoke about the pandemic and how authentic leadership and empathy have sort of shot into prominence as being some of the key ingredients for companies that have sort of stayed true and successful through this rather difficult black swan kind of event that we have had. Has the pandemic taught you anything new that you believe businesses will need to address the challenges in the future?
So I think what it more than teaching me anything new, it reinforced some of my beliefs
Okay.
I had in terms of leadership, in terms of how do you look at all the stakeholders. So again, the pandemic said that you have to look at all the stakeholders and not just your shareholders. And I think that's something which we have done in Marico for long, in looking at all the stakeholders through our purpose. So I think that reinforced, in terms of leadership style, it reinforced the need for higher degree of empathy, that being the need for being authentic, need to build openness and trust. The whole way of working changed because the working from home required a different style of leadership. So again, reinforced the need to empower people. And it so happened that in Marico we've empowered a lot. So for us, working boundarylessness, empowering was very easy. We went into production within a few days of the first lockout being declared, because everybody was connected, digitally savvy. Everybody, agility is also very important value for us. So agility, empowering, no need to supervise, digitally savvy, working from home was just reinforced all these values. And I think it really helped us. And organizations which are highly control oriented, where the boss is not delegating, not empowering people, I don't think they did as well. And I think this came out loud and clear in the pandemic, that you need to have an organization which is highly empowering, very good quality talent, boundarylessness, agility, authenticity, trust. So I think all in all, I would say that just reinforced my beliefs through a real life experience.
Yeah, in fact, wonderful to hear that. And, in a lot of ways, I think all the ingredients of success that you may have possibly experienced or had really came alive or was sort of taught to those that were going through the pandemic as being important
Yeah.
in running a successful business. So that's wonderful. Now, one of the things that really struck me, and I spoke about this earlier too, is the ability and willingness that you had to take risks. And for me, it was not just about taking risks; it was also about taking problems head on and really resolving them, however difficult or entangled or naughty they may be. There were many issues that you took up which were very difficult or sometimes even unimaginable to solve, but somehow you seem to take those up, you seem to almost be challenged by that, and you sort of work through the details of how it needs to be solved. I just wanted to know from you what really attracts you to doing this. I'm sure you're not attracted in that sense, but you sort of pick those up and you work them, because many of these problems are the kind that you can actually sweep under the carpet and do nothing about. But in your case, it almost seemed like you that was giving you purpose to move forward.
So I don't think I can call myself as a big risk taker. But I think when I am faced with a certain challenge or a certain dilemma, I'm very deliberative. So, and I also look at the organization's interest first. So, whatever is required for the organization rather than my personal interest or the promoter's interest, I say the organization's interest comes first. And we always have this kind of a dilemma in our journey when there's a conflict between the organization's interest and any stakeholder, whether it is a promoter or employee or anyone else. And I always have this thumb rule that the organization's interest comes first and then only the other stakeholder. So, for example, when I had to step down, I said, what's good for the organization? My continuing, I've been this journey for many long period, and any organization needs some fresh thinking. I also had to send a strong signal in terms of succession planning and ensuring that the perpetuity of the organization continued. So it was not, shall I say, it was not, I was not ready to step down, but I wore that hat of organization just come first, and I went being deliberative. I discussed that with my board of directors in detail and got reinforced. I think they had a merit in whatever they were saying. So I just decided to move on. And of course, there were family issues, also issues in terms of what will I do after stepping down. But all that is looking back to the right decision to take. And I'm also, it gave me a newer opportunity to do newer things in life, which I was not able to do earlier. So whenever we had those issues, even when we had this competition from levers, there was a lot of pressure from others to sell. But I was very clear that being an Indian company, and I'm proud. I also have a strong belief that organizations have to continue for a long period of time. I'm a strong believer in a perpetuity of an organization. So I discussed, deliberated a lot with a lot of people, and then came to the conclusion, rather than just. So I'm not an impulsive decision maker or impulsive risk taker. I know some people who are impulsive risk taking, but I would deliberate a lot, especially when it comes to some key risks. I would go much deeper and then take a call rather than just being impulsive. So I think that when you're deliberative, then you get to know the overall picture, and I think that helps you to take some risk. And to me, that has been the biggest, shall I say, source of reinforcement or source of support to say that, okay, now I've heard from many others, and I think I've looked at pros and cons of this particular issue, and based on that, I'm taking a risk, which is in the organization's interest, and then wait for things to pan out. Whatever it comes out, but it's okay to fail, as I said. So if you have that kind of mindset, then you take risks.
Wonderful. Again, I think what I'm hearing you say is that it's really not rash risk taking.
It
It's
is
quite,
yeah,
yeah, it's really deliberate.
impulsive also.
It's very well thought through,
I
different
also
perspectives.
when it comes to business, sorry again for interrupting. So I'm a very strong believer in focus. Do a few things, but do them well, and don't go into unrelated areas. If you're in FMCG, then you stick to FMCG. And if you're in FMCG, we are defined areas of business is beauty and wellness. Because the moment you go into something unrelated, then you go through learning curve and you're taking some risk which you may not succeed in.
So stay close to your core area of focus
True.
and
Yeah.
make sure that it's in. I also like the idea that you said you're constantly learning from others. Again, a great example of how you listen to others, understand all perspectives about what could happen with this problem that you're facing, and then take a call, knowing that you have considered everything. Of course, keeping at the center the interest of the organization, which I think was really a powerful thought.
Yeah.
So I have another question that has come from one of the participants saying, again, switching back a little, what drives innovation in your view? Is it the culture of the organization or is it up to the leadership to drive it?
So to give a short answer, both, but let me delve a little bit deeper into this issue. It's very, it's a subject which is very dear to me, and it's got reinforced because my early successes in businesses depended on some successes which came out of innovation. And multiple times, whenever we've innovated, many times we've failed, but whenever we have succeeded, it has seen a discontinuous impact on our business. And I think that's what has just reinforced the belief in me that organizations have to be innovative in a highly competitive environment. If you have a me too product or a me too service, your chances of success will be much lesser compared to an innovative organization. But innovation has to be on a perpetual basis. You cannot say that I will innovate once, because it's a matter of time. Other competitors will catch up with you. And innovation goes beyond just new products or new services. It goes across the organization, whether it's the way you advertise, the way you appoint distributors, the way you select, the way you, so it's across in factories. So that starting point to me was that yes, innovation is very, very crucial. So how do you drive innovation was a big challenge. And when Marico was formed in the 1990, I said the first step we will do is to take very good quality talent. So quality of talent is the first prerequisite. Number two, we will have diverse talent, because diversity brings in different thoughts from different angles. So whether it's gender diversity or educational diversity or geographic diversity, you need diversity. Number three, you need to have a culture of what I talked about, openness, transparency, where people will have dialogues, because innovation doesn't occur in R&D labs only. It has to, people think about something, and if I have a good idea, I'll speak to you. The idea will develop. I'll have some blind spots. I'll speak to three other people. So people should be willing to trust and dialogue with others in terms of innovation. And that's how. So the next step is, once that idea is developed, then the organization should encourage experimentation. So the leadership role is to say that it's okay to experiment. It's okay to fail. We will not fail. We will not punish failures. So then create an organization which experimentative. But if you want to, if there is a big risk, then you can de-risk it by prototyping it, by doing it on a very small scale rather than pushing it across the organization. So encourage prototyping, experimentation, risk-taking, dialogues, openness, and don't punish failures. And then the leadership role is further is to actually, whenever there's an opportunity to interact with, say, a brand team, in our case, they would expect, I would ask, when there's a brand review, what is the innovation you thought about for this brand? It could be a minor innovation in terms of, how will I advertise also. But the fact that the leadership is sending messages down the line that they value innovation, and they will have to be prepared with this kind of a question. So that thing is there on top of their mind, that innovation is playing a very important role in top management, the leadership's responsibility. And in addition to that, what we do is that we have innovation awards which are internal to Marico. So we invite entries every year. We get about 20-25 entries. And an independent jury selects 6 best entries,
Okay.
which again gets talked at town hall events. And the whole teams, and normally it is 5, 6, 8, 10 people team, which is doing this innovation, and they present it to the whole organization. Everybody hears it. So again, you are reinforcing innovation from different angles, and to combine quality of talent, diversity, the culture, fear of failure, and then the top leadership role, then you want to create an innovative culture which will think of innovation on a perpetual basis.
Oh, fabulous answer again in terms of, having a culture where you promote innovation. It's almost embedded into the way you do things. And of course, having the right leadership values that will drive innovative thought and actions, and what may be some of the things that will reinforce that, how important innovation is for you as an organization. I just had a few questions that were a little lighter for you,
Sure.
Mr. Mariwala. I just wanted to know, how do you deal with stress, and mm, how do you spend your spare time? I know these days we talk a lot about mental health.
Yeah.
I know it's an area of great interest for you.
Yeah.
How do you deal with stress? What do you do with spare time, if you have any?
Yeah, no, I have a lot of spare time. So, and these days, especially now that I don't have that much of an active role in the company, I have more spare time. But clearly, every person goes through stress, and I think you need to identify at an individual level how do you deal with a daily stress. Of course, there are some serious issues on stress. Then you need to go to a specialist. But daily stress, what what will you do on a daily basis which will help you mitigate that stress is an individual choice. Depending on each individual, you can experiment, one can try different options and see what works for you. But for me, um, I mean, some of the things which are very, so basically I exercise every day for 1.5 to 2 hours,
Wow.
and to me exercise is very important. I'm physically tired at the end of the day, so I can have a good sleep. So me, health, exercise is very important. I play golf on weekends. That again is a way to overcome stress. I listen to music. While I'm exercising, I'm listening to music. I read a lot. And in my spare time, and except for pandemic days, I also socialize, not every day, but maybe a few times a week with my friends. So a combination of these things have worked for me, but for different people, it could be different. Somebody, it could be yoga, somebody, it could be meditation. I think what you have to do is you have to find your own answer, what works best for you.
In fact, again, I see it's an answer that's attracted a lot of positive feedback from the audience. And, I think the learning for me is that, you need to make your time, you need to choose your activity. But there's a lot about fitness, there's a lot about good sleep that you spoke about, there's a lot about relationships and focusing on that. And I think all the enablers that you spoke, in terms of exercise and music and all of that, which really all of us have access to and could easily be used to deal with stress. But like you said, I think each one has to pick up what it is that will make a difference to them and follow it. So that's interesting. What bothers you most and keeps you awake at night? I'm not talking about the sleeplessness, but what's really the concern that you have that
Yeah, of course, there are some business concerns if you're going through an issue, but I think that's a part and parcel of one's life. As and when that occurs, it has, it could be some very key talent leaving. My biggest worries are about talent in terms of how do we attract and retain talent. To me, that's the key thing. And then, I mean, if somebody is unfair to me or cheats me, then I really feel hurt, for whatever reason. So, so I think that's what, but it doesn't happen that often. I think everybody goes through ups and downs in life. And the key thing I've always believed is that I think if you have a passion, then you have to combine that passion with determination and perseverance. Because it's just not the passion which will drive you, it is the grit, which is passion combined with determination and perseverance. And that's what will make successful entrepreneurs, to have that grit and not just have passion.
very interesting again to say that, nothing that is worth losing sleep over. Part of life, we need to face it. Of course, there are certain things that can pull us down, but we really need to find the energy to deal with it. So I think that's. So I also wanted to ask you, what energizes you to continue to learn, innovate, and support the business? And there's a lot of talk of legacy in your book. And what is the one area that you would like to be remembered for?
So I think you're right. I'm a strong believer in legacy and perpetuity, and the kind of business Marico is in, which is relatively stable business. The likely disruptions may be lesser than many other businesses. So it's known as a defensive business. It's something uh, which I would want it to continue. So one part of the legacy is that continuity of Marico beyond me has to be there. And how do I make that happen is the biggest challenge. So I do it in three ways. One is the role of the board. The board has to play a very, very important role in ensuring that the company is manned by the right CEO and the team. And the role of the board is to make the CEO perform better. The board also, so board's role would be to ensure that the values and the culture which have been built up continue, unless in some cases some cultural part or the values may change because of environment. Number two, at least Marico, we have a purpose which is to make a difference to all the stakeholders. So would like also the purpose also to be measured by the board. And number three, the strategy, wherein we have a two-page strategy document, which again gets revisited every year. But the board's role is to look at the strategy, reinforce strategy. We have the values and culture where we do a value survey amongst all our employees, whether and wherever there are gaps, we HR attends to that particular subject or a particular location. And third is purpose, and then have the right team. So if you have a strong board which is aware of all this, then the perpetuity of the organization hopefully will continue even if I'm not there.
I think really showing that, you need to look at the forever piece. You need to look at, what drives you to that forever piece. And then, of course, what do you need to do on a yearly or a shorter term basis so that we can continue with that,
Yeah.
the purpose of the organization. There's a question from the audience. I know what are some of the lessons that you can share about working across generations of employees over the last 30 years?
You mean the youngsters, and is that what the
Across generations, have there been experiences that you have and what have you learned?
So I think the whole Indian society and the culture, and this whole thing is changing quite fast. And the new age employees versus the old, my parents or in that generation is very different. So the way of working has changed. The assumption under which we worked has changed. The business also requires a different behavior. And I think one thing is to recognize that all of us are a part of a certain generation, and we are influenced by that generation. And we have, once you're aware, then what is the best way to interact with, say, the millennials or whatever, because they are born in a certain environment and they're influenced, whether it's the sustainability issues or the work life balance issues or whatever. I think you have to understand what what has made them. And I think depending on that, you need to design your organizational response to them. And I think you have to be open in terms of changing your culture and changing the way you do things, depending on what is happening in the environment and the trends which are thrown up by the environment. And I think you should be open and flexible to change.
Okay. And you do see a distinct difference in terms of how the generations have
Yeah, yeah.
responded.
I can compare with my elder generation, my
Okay.
generation, then my maybe children generation, which are around 40, and then now the millennials. So
Okay.
four generations, so at least I can make out, the whole, people like us digitally, it's very difficult for us to be as digitally savvy as millennials. So, when it comes to transformation of our organization and bringing the uh, shall I say, we say that digitally it should be manned by very young people,
Okay.
initiatives, because they are the best equipped, they know it all, and no amount of me will. So I have to realize that they are the best people and to equip to lead the digital journey within the organization. I should give the responsibility to them rather than trying to do it myself.
So, do you have a favorite generation when it comes to working?
No. I think each generation has taught, and they have. I think I'm only looking at the positives of each generation. So each generation has its own set of positives. So if I look at positive, then each generation has contributed something,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know there is a question, but it's worded a little differently. I would like to ask you, do you think India can be a world beating nation? I know you speak about how entrepreneurs can make a difference to India as a country. What is your view of, how where India stands and how it could sort of really becoming a world beating nation?
So I think if you ask me when will it become something like the US or China, I think we have some way to go. We have to do a lot of things. But as of today, we are in a sweet spot globally. But we need to leverage that sweet spot in doing many, many more reforms, doing many things which will make us rise. I'm optimistic about India's future. I'm optimistic about Indians, their capability. But to expect overnight results and being a global leader is, I don't think it's right. I don't see it happening for next 10, 15 years. But the path is definitely positive. A lot will depend on our economic policies, not only economic policies, social policies, the way we as a nation can actually live together. So I think secularism and values like that are going to be very, very crucial for us to succeed and be recognized and respected as a global leader.
Again, a question that's getting a lot of thumbs up and heart uh, from the audience. I think, yeah, we do have everything that is going in favor of us, but we still have some
Well,
path
how
to
come
go.
I've stopped getting all those updates? I'm just because
Oh, okay. There are lots of people saying wow, clapping. There are heart emojis coming up. There's thumbs up, and it's going continuously for this answer. So I think it's something that I think resonates very much with the audience as well. Yeah, I know we have just 3 minutes left, and I just wanted to ask you something personal. How important has family been for you in this journey that you have made at Marico?
So I think family is definitely a source of big support. When I wrote that book, I was not happy with the way the book came out. I'm a novice in when it comes to writing, and I was very frustrated because it was just not moving forward. And the pandemic happened, and then I sat down with my wife, and she helped me rewrite the book. And I must say that she's added a lot of value because I mean she knew parts of me which I may myself not have known.
Okay.
So able to add a lot of emotions, anecdotes. So I think it plays a very important role, and you need to. When I'm talking of family, I'm talking of not only just wife, kids, but the larger family also. I think it is a great source of support in the environment, and not only support learning, and overall, ultimately, it improves the quality of life.
Yeah, I think it's something that we are known for as a country, and I think we need to really cherish and take forward. So
Yeah.
nice to hear that from you too. I just wanted to ask you any last words before we close the session. We have another couple of minutes left.
No, I think all I can say is that it all depends to the HR professionals. The HR has been a very important subject for me, and my first recruit for Marico was a HR professional. And unfortunately, I have seen again in many organizations, HR is not at the same level as other functions, and that's, I always tell all the other CEOs, why is HR at a one level lower, because HR has to play a role in driving organizational behavior, whether it's the role of HR and HR also has to think business. And if you read my book, you can make out that HR has actually played a very, very important role in improving organizations' productivity, profitability by taking some key decisions in locating a factory in Kerala, which had a huge positive profit impact on us. And if HR has to think business and HR has to be part of the think tank at the topmost level, I think that's to me is the biggest. Apart from playing the normal role of attracting, retaining talent, culture building, and what else is required for HR. But this to me is very important. And I hope that other CEOs, but today we are not having too many CEOs, we have more HR heads. So I think your role in the organization is to influence your CEO and say, what is the role of HR? Can I think business and can I add value uh, through the HR angle, the HR lens? because ultimately it's the most important lens in any organization.
So I think again, music for everyone who's in the audience. I think you ran your business as a triumvirate. I think CEO, CFO, CHRO having equal power at the same table. And if that is not something that's happening in our participants' organization, you have advice to say that you need to seek that value. You need to seek that seat at the table, so that you can make a difference. You can make an impact in the business that you're running. So thank you so much, Mr. Mariwala. It's been a pleasure to sort of do this conversation. Lots that I have learned from you, and I'm sure the audience too. I can still see that the thumbs up and the claps and the heart emojis are continuing to come through. I think there's a lot that you spoke about HR supporting business. Again, I would like all participants a quick reminder that this is the book that we're talking about. Mr. Mariwala has just released. He's written this along with Mr. Ramcharan, and I would really recommend that you read it. It is a story of going against odds, innovating relentlessly to be successful, facing challenges in their face, unraveling them, however troublesome they may be, and treating all stakeholders as partners in the journey of business, to play to your strengths and play to win. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for the wonderful.
Right. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mariwala, and thank you, Ms. Gangarpriya. I think this conversation has been so powerful. I was a part of the backstage, and I was also there as an audience. And all the remarks and all the chats and the Q&A have been so powerful and so mesmerizing. I'm sure the audience has certain things to take back today. So thank you so much for leading this today, making time, and certainly, leading the way for all of us here from the HR. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week ahead. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye. How come I stopped getting this feed? What happened? I stopped getting this feed. This also? No? Where do you see? Yeah. How do I go? Like,
Thank you so much. And to all those of you who have joined us from far and near, you've been a lovely audience since yesterday, we must say. And thank you so much for joining in our meeting today, right from the start, when we had Mr. Josh Burson sharing his predictions for the HR, post which we had a quick launch of our job app for the HR community. And it's only befitting that we introduce you once again with the NHRD's first ever job app meant totally and completely for the HR fraternity. An app exclusively for all of you, an app that is free for all its members. Not to forget, this is a totally safe platform, user-friendly, and of course, the navigations are pretty easy for all of us who have been in this digital world for the last 2 years. A place for all great roles and opportunities to converge and for you to make most out of it. No distinction with the mid-sized or the large-sized organizations. So here is a short video that we would like to show you and which will talk to you about the key features. You can also visit it once more on our landing page of this conference at the reception. Pranav, if we can have a short video for our audience.
No, ma'am.
Wow, wasn't that so much wonderful? There is so much else that each of you can explore while you are here in the conference today. Our next meeting starts sharp at 11:45, wherein you will have two of the industry leaders talking to you about the importance of the AI and ML in the world of HR as well as business. But before you do that, don't forget to visit any of our booths, talk to our leaders there, explore what's in store for you as you spend your time with us. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
I would like to also thank our sponsors, our strategic partner, premium sponsorer ONGC, silver sponsorer Zozoday, JSW, White Crow Research, associate sponsors ICICI Bank, Indian Oil, NTPC, Mahindra Rice, World at Work India, knowledge partner Mercer, and communication and design partner Fulki. Thank you.